There is a moment most mornings when you are walking from the bedroom to the kitchen or standing at the sink running water over a cup, and a voice starts up inside your head, quiet, familiar, almost too familiar to notice. It tells you what kind of day this is going to be. It tells you what you are. It tells you what is going to happen at work, in that conversation you are dreading, in the message you have been avoiding. And you absorb the voice the way a sponge absorbs water, without question, without resistance, without any awareness that anything is happening at all. That voice has been talking to you for as long as you've been alive. The words it uses, the same words, the same rhythms, the same conclusions repeated for years, those words are the most consistent input the inner mind receives. So here is the question this whole script lives inside. What happens when you take that voice, the one that has been running on autopilot your whole life, and you point it, out loud, with your own mouth, at your own ears, first thing in the morning, before the day has had a chance to write the script for you? Something happens, something specific. Something the lineage that built the foundation of personal development teaches as a law, the way a physics teacher teaches gravity. And once you can see the gears turning, you will carry the picture for life. We are going to walk through the machinery layer by layer. By the time we are done, you will know exactly why a man can read the same sentence aloud twice a day and end up living a different life inside of a year. You will know why the morning matters, why the voice matters, why the body matters, why the threshold matters, and why one repeated sentence spoken aloud at the right time will produce results that willpower and discipline and motivation will never produce on their own. Let us start at the foundation. The inner mind operates on a principle the lineage calls autosuggestion, the deliberate feeding of an instruction to the deeper part of the mind through repeated emotionalized statement. Hill devoted an entire chapter to it in Think and Grow Rich, published in 1937. Chapter 4. He called it the medium for influencing the subconscious mind. And the prescription he gave was specific. Read your statement of definite purpose aloud, twice daily, once at night before sleep, once in the morning upon waking. Why aloud? Why those two windows? Why your own voice? Because of how the machinery is built. The deeper mind, the part that runs the operating system beneath your conscious choosing, accepts whatever instruction the conscious mind impresses upon it through repetition and emotion. It accepts the instruction as given. It builds reality around whatever instruction it receives. The arguing, the filtering, the weighing of evidence, those happen at a layer above the deeper mind. The deeper mind takes the order and gets to work. That is the first principle, and it has been documented for over 100 years. If this is hitting you right now, drop a like. It helps get this in front of the right people. Picture the dirt road Nightingale used to talk about, a road through a field. Used once. Faint mark in the grass. Used twice. The grass starts to flatten. Used 100 times, there is a groove. Used 1,000 times in the same season. There is a wagon track so deep that the wheels cannot leave it even if you tried to steer somewhere else. The deeper mind builds grooves the same way. Every thought walked down it deepens the groove. Every word spoken inside it carves the channel a little deeper. And the wagon, your behavior, your reactions, your results, rolls down whichever groove is deepest. Most of those grooves were carved before you were old enough to choose them. Speaking a new instruction aloud, in the morning, with your own voice into your own ears, is the lineage's prescription for cutting a new groove on purpose. Here is where it gets specific. When you only think a sentence, you are using one channel. The mind hears the thought, processes it, files it, one input, one groove getting one stroke. That is fine. That is how thinking works. The inner mind shrugs at single-channel input and moves on. The instruction needs more weight, more emphasis, more signal that this particular instruction matters. When you write the sentence by hand, you have added a second channel. The hand moves, the eyes track the letters forming. The arm engages the shoulder engages the spine. The body becomes part of the instruction. 2 channels, bigger impression on the deeper mind. When you speak the sentence aloud, you have added a 3rd channel. Your mouth shapes the words. Your throat vibrates. Your ears receive the sound of your own voice carrying the instruction back into the mind. The body is now both transmitting and receiving the same signal at the same time. 3 channels, the groove gets carved 3 strokes deeper for every single repetition. When you speak the sentence aloud, with feeling, with the emotion of the thing already being true, you have added a 4th channel. Emotion is the accelerant Hill identified as the difference between an instruction the deeper mind ignores and an instruction the deeper mind takes as an order. Hill said it directly in Chapter 4. A thought without emotion will fail to impress the subconscious. A thought charged with strong feeling bypasses conscious resistance and imprints fast. You see how this stacks? Thinking is 1 channel. Writing adds a 2nd. Speaking adds a 3rd. Feeling adds a 4th. Hill prescribed all 4. Twice a day, out loud, with feeling. Because he had spent 20 years sitting across the table from over 500 of the wealthiest people in America, and he had seen the same pattern in nearly every one of them. They had a sentence. They knew it cold. They felt it. And they repeated it until the inner mind stopped seeing it as a wish and started executing it as a fact. That is the first layer, the foundation. Speaking aloud in the morning is multi-channel input directed at the deeper mind during the most receptive window of the day. Good. That is 1 gear turning. The next one engages at the same time. Stay with me. The next piece is where this gets specific. The morning window has a structural reason behind it. The lineage is precise about why. There is a particular state the mind passes through twice every 24 hours, once on the way down into sleep and once on the way back up into waking. In those windows, the conscious mind, the part that argues and filters and dismisses, has its guard down. The deeper mind is closer to the surface. Suggestions slip past the gatekeeper without resistance. Hill called this the most receptive window. Proctor used to say it on stage every chance he got. The first 30 minutes after you wake and the last 30 minutes before you sleep are when the soil is softest. Plant a seed in concrete, and the seed sits there until the wind takes it. Plant the same seed in soft-turned soil, and the seed takes hold inside of days. The sentence you speak aloud at 6 in the morning, with your eyes still half closed, with the conscious mind still loading its filters, that sentence drops into soft soil. The same sentence spoken at 2 in the afternoon, when the conscious mind is fully armored, fully skeptical, fully running its commentary, has to fight much harder to get past the gate. Picture the sentry standing at the door of a building. During the day, the sentry is alert, checking credentials, turning people away, asking questions. At dawn and at dusk, the sentry is stretching, yawning, half asleep, and people walk right past with hardly a glance. The morning instruction walks past the sentry. The afternoon instruction has to argue its way through. Same instruction. Different reception, same mind. Different door. This is what it looks like when someone misses this window. They wake up, they reach for the phone, they scroll the headlines. They open the message they have been avoiding. They read 3 opinions from strangers. They watch a clip about something terrible happening somewhere else. By the time they have brushed their teeth, the deeper mind has already received 300 or 400 instructions about what kind of day this is going to be. Every one of them written by someone who is not them. Every one of them accepted by the deeper mind without argument, because the gate was wide open. A person who knows about the window does it differently. They wake, they speak, out loud, their own voice, their own sentence, before the phone, before the headlines, before the strangers get a chance. They walk into the building first and tell the staff what kind of day this is. By the time the strangers show up at the door, the orders have already been given. The strangers can shout all they want. They are not running the building. That is the second layer. The morning is a structural moment. A window where the soil is soft, a door where the sentry is stretching. The first input wins. Whoever is speaking first programs the day. If you are not speaking, someone else is. Okay, so that is two layers running at the same time. Multi-channel input directed at a structurally receptive window. Now we add the third layer, and the third layer is where the body's role becomes visible. Drop a comment and tell us which part of this just made you stop and think. There is a phenomenon the lineage understood, and that observation has confirmed many times over. When you speak words out loud, the sound waves travel through the air, reach the ear, and get processed by the mind as external information. There is a second pathway running at the same time. The vibrations of your own vocal cords travel through the bones of your skull directly to the inner ear. You hear your own voice through two channels at once, the air channel and the bone channel. Other people only hear you through the air channel, which is why a recording of your voice never sounds quite right to you. You are missing the bone half. You have never heard yourself the way the rest of the world hears you. What this means for autosuggestion is precise. When you speak an instruction aloud, the deeper mind receives the signal through both the air pathway and the bone pathway simultaneously. Two reinforcement channels firing at the same time. The inner mind tags it with extra weight. This is more than a thought. This is more than a sound. This is a thought that vibrated my own body. The body is now participating in the instruction. And the body, the lineage taught, is where the deeper mind ultimately stores the program. A belief that lives only in the head can be debated. A belief that lives in the body, in the throat, in the chest, in the way the shoulders set when the words are spoken. That belief becomes posture. That belief becomes behavior. That belief becomes reflex. Picture the difference between hearing someone sing a song and singing the song yourself. You can hear a song 1,000 times and still miss half the lyrics. You sing the song aloud once, and you remember the chorus for life. The body remembers what the body has done. The deeper mind remembers what the body has rehearsed. Speaking aloud is rehearsal. Thinking quietly is reading the script in your head, with the lights off. This is what it looks like when someone is using this principle without knowing they are using it. You see a man who got a piece of bad news, and he keeps repeating out loud that everything is going to work out. To anyone listening, it sounds like reassurance. What he is doing is programming. The deeper mind is hearing the sentence in his own voice, through bone and air, and the groove is getting cut. By day 3, he no longer needs to repeat it. The instruction has taken root. He has stopped reassuring and started becoming. You see another person who got the same kind of bad news, and he keeps repeating out loud that this always happens to him. Same mechanism. Different instruction. Same groove getting cut. By day 3, the deeper mind is searching the world for evidence that this always happens to him. And the search engine is good at its job. It will find what it is looking for. It will surface every memory that confirms the sentence. It will dismiss every memory that contradicts it. The man will fail to notice this is happening. He will only notice that life keeps proving him right. The third layer is this. The voice is the body participating in the program. The mouth, the throat, the lungs, the ears, the bones of the skull are all feeding one signal into the deeper mind at the same time. That is what makes a loud carry weight that silent never carries. By a wide margin. Every time. There is a fourth principle sitting underneath that one. The fourth layer is the principle Hill called the broadcasting station. The mind, he said, is both a transmitter and a receiver of thought vibration. Every brain broadcasts at a frequency determined by its dominant thoughts. Every brain receives signals matching that frequency from the environment around it. Speaking your instruction aloud, in the morning, with feeling retunes the broadcasting station to a specific frequency for the day. Nightingale used the kitchen radio analogy. Hundreds of stations are broadcasting in the air around you at any moment. The radio only plays one. The dial decides which one. Your dominant thought is the dial. Whatever the dial is set to is the only station you will hear all day, even though every other station is still broadcasting. Speak fear aloud in the morning. The dial points at fear. You will hear fear all day. In conversations, news, traffic, weather, the look on a stranger's face, Speak certainty aloud in the morning. The dial points at certainty. You will hear certainty all day in the same conversations, the same news, the same traffic, the same weather, the same strangers. The world has held still. The dial has changed, and the dial was set by what you said first. This is where Hill's teaching meets the deeper mechanic. The deeper mind receives your instruction and tunes the entire perceptual apparatus to match it. The filter that decides what you notice. The voice that comments on what you see. The reflex that decides what is a threat and what is an opportunity. All of it gets retuned in the morning by the first sustained instruction the inner mind hears. Imagine a man tuning a guitar before a concert. He picks up the instrument and the strings are slack, dull, slightly off. He turns the pegs, plucks the strings, listens, tightens here, loosens there. By the time he walks on stage, the instrument is in pitch. Every note will land where he wants it. Walk on stage without tuning, and he will be playing the same song with the same skill on an instrument that is fighting him every measure. Speaking aloud in the morning is tuning the instrument. The instrument is going to play all day either way. The only question is whether it is in pitch. A person operating without the morning sentence is playing on an untuned instrument. The notes are still there. The skill is still there. The performance is still happening. Every note is slightly off, and the audience can hear it even if the player cannot. The world responds to an untuned broadcast the same way an audience responds to an untuned guitar, with distance, with confusion, with a quiet sense that something is wrong somewhere. The performer attributes the response to the audience. The instrument was untuned the whole time. That is the fourth layer. Speaking aloud retunes the broadcasting station and the receiving station at the same time. Same instrument, two functions, both calibrated by the morning instruction. Now we layer in the fifth piece, and the fifth piece is the one that makes the whole thing self-sustaining. The lineage taught that the deeper mind builds permanent pathways through repetition, sustained repetition, the same instruction in the same form at the same time for enough days in a row that the path becomes automatic. Hill prescribed 30 days as the floor. Proctor extended it to 90 in his later teaching. Both pointed at the same threshold. There is a moment somewhere between 30 and 90 days when the instruction stops being something you have to give and starts being something the deeper mind expects to receive. The groove is so deep, the wagon rolls down it without your hand on the reins. Until that moment, you are doing the work. After that moment, the work does itself. This is the principle of hypnotic rhythm. The law by which the deeper mind fixes any sustained pattern as permanent programming. Hill was specific about this. Hypnotic rhythm works for constructive habits and destructive habits with equal mechanical certainty. The law has no preference built into it. Whatever you repeat long enough becomes the program. The morning sentence works because it uses the same law that built every other habit you have. The same law that carved the groove of the inner critic carves the groove of the new instruction. The mechanism takes whichever sentence you give it. The mechanism just carves. Picture the cold engine on a winter morning. First few cranks, the engine resists. The metal is stiff, the oil is thick, the cylinders fight every revolution. Crank it long enough and the engine catches. Once it catches, it is running on its own. You can take your hand off the key. The engine runs because it has reached its operating state. Speaking the sentence aloud for the first 3 days is the first 3 cranks. The engine is cold. The deeper mind is resisting because the new sentence does not match the old programming. By day 10, the engine is warming. By day 30, the engine is running on its own. The sentence speaks itself in your head before your eyes are fully open. This is what the lineage figures observed in the people they studied. Every successful person Hill interviewed had a phrase, a creed, a sentence, an instruction they had been speaking to themselves for years. Carnegie had one. Edison had one. They did not call it autosuggestion. Most of them had no name for the mechanism. They had stumbled onto the law and they were applying it whether they understood it or not. Hill's job was to identify the pattern, name it, and write it down so anyone who came after could apply it on purpose. Modern brain imaging has confirmed what Hill documented in Chapter 4. The science caught up about 60 years later. The lineage had the map decades before the instruments existed to measure the territory. A person who is using the morning sentence well has a particular tell. They have a phrase they repeat. They are quiet about it. They might say it under their breath in the car. They might say it in the mirror while shaving. They might say it before they walk into a meeting that scares them. The phrase is short. The phrase is the same every time. The phrase is in the present tense, framed in the positive, and over time the phrase stops being something they say and starts being something they are. The face changes. The walk changes. The way they enter a room changes. The phrase has done its work in the body, and the body has updated the broadcast. A person who is missing the morning sentence has a tell too. They have a phrase, but they did not choose it. The phrase showed up sometime in childhood, picked up from a parent, a teacher, a sibling, a circumstance. The phrase tells them what kind of person they are, what kind of life they should expect, what kind of doors are closed to them. They repeat the phrase 100 times a day without noticing. The deeper mind has been hearing the same instruction every morning for 30 years. The wagon track is so deep, the wheels cannot leave it. The cold engine is no longer cold. It has been running this program since childhood, and it would take serious heat to change the operating state. That is the fifth layer. The morning sentence works because it leverages the same law of hypnotic rhythm that built the old programming. The law accepts whichever sentence you give it. The law just keeps cutting the groove. Whichever groove is deepest is the one the wagon rolls in. Let that sit for a second. You see how all 5 layers are running at the same time. Multi-channel input, receptive window, body participating through bone and air, broadcasting station retuning the permanent path, one man in a kitchen speaking one sentence aloud with feeling before the phone is touched is operating 5 principles simultaneously. He probably has no idea he is doing it. The mechanics work without his understanding. The mechanics work by law. There is a 6th layer, and it is the one that makes this whole picture finally land. The lineage taught a principle Hill stated plainly and Proctor diagrammed for 60 years on stage. Results in your outer life will always settle to match the image you hold of yourself in your inner life. The self-image is the invisible ceiling. The thermostat in the building, whatever the thermostat is set to is what the temperature will hold at however many windows you open or close. You can have a great month, a great quarter, a great year. If the self-image is set lower than the result, the deeper mind will quietly bring the result back down to match the setting. Lottery winners broke 5 years later. Successful people self-sabotaging right before they cross the line. The thermostat resetting the room. The morning sentence is the most consistent tool the lineage gave for adjusting the thermostat on purpose. Every other tool either misses the self-image or addresses it at the wrong time of day, or fails to address it through enough channels to make a permanent dent. The morning sentence, spoken aloud, with feeling, in the receptive window, repeated for the threshold period, is the tool. By design, because of how the mind is structurally built. Proctor went from earning $4,000 a year to earning over $1 million in a single year, and he traced the change to one practice. He read his goal card every morning, every night, out loud, with feeling. For decades, the card said what he intended to earn before he could see how. The deeper mind heard it on the way up and on the way down, for 30 days, then 90 days, then years. The thermostat reset. The temperature followed. Subscribe if you want more of this. We teach from Carnegie, Hill, Nightingale, Proctor, and the full lineage, and we go this deep every single time. You can repeat this without becoming Proctor. Proctor borrowed the mechanics from Nightingale. Who borrowed them from Hill? who borrowed them from Carnegie's commission, and over 500 interviews with men who had stumbled onto the same law independently. The mechanics belong to no one person. They are mechanics. They work by law whether the operator understands the law. They work by law whether the operator believes the law. They work by law whether the operator likes the law. The law operates regardless. The law is operating right now. Now there is one more layer underneath all of this, and it is worth naming before we close, because without it, the whole architecture has nowhere to land. The seventh layer is what Hill called the bridge to infinite intelligence. He said it plainly in Chapter 4. The deeper mind is the connecting link between the finite mind of the individual and the source of all creative intelligence, all answers, all solutions, all unseen resources. Properly directed, the deeper mind draws from that source the way a tree draws from groundwater it cannot see. The tree has no need to understand groundwater. The tree extends its roots in the right direction, consistently over time. The water finds the roots that are reaching for it. When you speak your instruction aloud in the morning, with feeling, repeatedly, you are extending the roots. The conscious mind delivers the request. The deeper mind opens the channel. The source on the other side responds with ideas, with hunches, with the right name appearing at the right moment, with a conversation that turns into the introduction, that turns into the opportunity. People who do this for years and watch it work call it luck. People who study the mechanism call it law. Hill said something that landed on me when I first read it years ago and has held on since. He said that any thought, plan, or purpose held in mind through repetition begins immediately to translate itself into its physical equivalent. He said immediately, the translation begins the moment the instruction is held with consistency. Right then, the visible result lags. The translation runs ahead of the visible result by months and sometimes years. This is why the man who speaks the sentence aloud for 30 days starts to see things move that he cannot trace to anything he obviously did. A phone call comes in, a door opens, a piece of information drops in his lap. A person says yes who had been saying no. He shrugs and calls it timing. The lineage would say he tuned a station that has been broadcasting his whole life and only just now noticed he could pick up the signal. That is the seventh layer. The morning sentence is opening the channel between the deeper mind and the source on the other side of it. The channel was always there. The channel needed an instruction clear enough, repeated long enough, charged with enough feeling to use it. 7 gears, 1 5-minute practice, 1 sentence, 1 voice, 1 mouth, 1 pair of ears, 1 body in a kitchen at 6 in the morning before the phone has been touched. Now pull back. The voice that has been talking inside your head for as long as you have been alive is the most consistent input the deeper mind has ever received. It has been programming the operating system in real time every day since before you knew you had a deeper mind. The only question that has ever mattered about that voice is whether you are choosing what it says or letting it choose for you. When you speak aloud, in the morning, before the phone, before the headlines, before anyone else gets a vote, you are taking the wheel of an instrument that has been driving you for years. The instrument was always going to be running. The wagon was always going to roll. The dial was always going to be set. The thermostat was always going to be programmed. The thing that changes when you start speaking aloud is the name of the operator. Picture a small house at the edge of a field. Inside the house, a single room. In the corner of the room, a radio. The radio has been on quietly since the house was built. Whoever owned the house before you set the dial? You moved in years ago and never thought to look at the dial because the radio has been so quiet for so long it has become part of the wall. The music has been shaping every meal you have eaten in this house, every conversation you have had at this table, every dream you have had in this bed. Today, for the first time, you walk over to the radio. You put your hand on the dial. You turn it, deliberately, to a station you have chosen. You speak the name of the station out loud so the house knows. And the music in the room changes. The house was always going to have music. The dial was always going to be pointed somewhere. The walls were always going to absorb whatever frequency was playing. Today is the first day the music is yours. Tomorrow, the dial will still be where you set it, unless you walk past without checking. The day after that, the dial will hold its position more easily because the deeper mind is starting to expect the new station. By day 30, the radio plays the new station the moment you walk in the room, and the old station starts to feel like noise from a house you used to live in. That is the science nobody talks about. The science has been visible the whole time. The lineage taught it 89 years ago, in plain language, twice a day, out loud, with feeling, and most of the world walked past the prescription without picking it up. Hill wrote it in 1937. Nightingale recorded it in 1956 on the first spoken-word record to sell over 1 million copies. Proctor taught it on stage for over 6 decades, to rooms full of people who had been waiting their whole lives for someone to hand them the dial. Vossify is still teaching it now, in different words, with the same mechanics underneath. You just heard it. The dial is in your hand. The voice inside your head became yours by repetition. Whoever spoke first, longest, and with the most feeling, won the dial. For most of your life, that was someone else. From this morning on, that voice answers to the operator standing in the kitchen. Speak. The room is listening.